Welcome, and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode until the question and answer session of today's conference. At that time, you may press star then 1 on your touch-tone phone to ask a question. I would like to inform all parties that today's conference is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the conference over to Heidi Crawford. Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you, Kurt. And thank you for joining us today for Wild Card or Wild Ride. My name is Heidi Crawford, and along with my partner today, David Craker, we are data dissemination specialists with the U.S. Census Bureau. And David and I are a few of the data dissemination specialists across the country that are available to conduct trainings, presentations. We respond to data inquiries from data users and other stakeholders as well. I'm responsible for activities in Alaska, Oregon, and Washington, and David services New York State and northern New Jersey. We will provide you with our contact information at the end of today, as well as our general email and phone number if you would like to find out who your local data dissemination specialist is. So for today's session, it's going to focus on how to use American Factfinder with tips and tricks on how to select using geographies, years, words, and wildcards. It highlights the different surveys and censuses that are included in the American Factfinder and how to find different strains of data. Then following the presentation, we'll provide an example of finding the data in American Factfinder and also how to find data while learning more about the questions on the American Community Survey. The webinar will last about an hour, including time for questions. We will have a Q&A session during and after the webinar, but a chat box is open, and David and I will try and do our best to try and address questions through the chat during the session. If we don't get back to you right away, just bear with us. And we can also stay on the call a few minutes afterward, after the session, to address questions through the chat. So to begin, I'd like to just provide a little bit of information about the American Community Survey. So the American Community Survey, or as we like to say, the ACS, because we love our acronyms at Census, samples approximately 3.5 million addresses annually, which comes out to about 290,000 addresses per month. And these data are collected continuously throughout the year to produce annual social, economic, housing, and demographic estimates. And then the ACS covers the resident population of the U.S. and Puerto Rico for people that are living in housing units and group quarters. And when I talk about housing units, it includes common things as your typical house, apartment, or mobile home. And then for group quarters, think of dorms, college dormitories, correctional facilities, or military barracks. So in terms of the difference between the American Community Survey and the census, so the decennial is conducted every 10 years, and as many of you know, we're gearing up for the 2020 census, so that is coming up very quickly upon us. And then the ACS is a sample survey that happens every year throughout the year. The ACS has essentially replaced the census long form. So the last time we did the census long form was in 2000. 1 in 7 people received that long form. I can say I was actually pretty excited because I received that form myself in 2000. And now for 2010 and then 2020, we moved towards that short form. In terms of content for the American Community Survey, it can be grouped into 4 main types of characteristics. We've got our social, our economic, our housing, and our demographic. Local, state, and tribal governments, as well as federal agencies, use this data to help with their planning for programs and eligibility criteria, and to encourage people to participate in various programs. Now David and I will walk through some of our tips and tricks to find data in American Factfinder, and then we'll go online and show you how to put some of these tips and tricks to use. So for some of these that will start, some of these next features, some of you may have seen them before, but for others they may be new. So David's going to now talk about a minute about how to filter with census data.
Heidi, I just want to say that when we're filtering here that traditionally we tell people to go and look for data by geography, but in fact there's a mixture here. So in our portal we have old geographies and new geographies. Some of them are defunct. So quite often I will tell people either look by subject or look by time frame. And so you'll see me do that today, and I'll try to show you as I go through.
Okay, for some of these.
Yes, go ahead.
For some of these next slides may look familiar to some of you that have used Factfinder, and for some of them they might be new, but we wanted to just take a minute to talk about some of them before David actually goes online and shows you some of these features and these tips and tricks. So as David mentioned, one of the ways that we can search is through geographies. And so this will be on the left-hand side of the screen. You'll see this option. And when you select it, it breaks it down a little bit further. We've got 4 tabs. We've got list, name, address, and map. And so for the list, it's exactly how it sounds. You can get a drop-down list to go through and select your geographies or the area that you're looking for. The name feature, we'll show you an example of that. That allows you to filter. It's a filter method. So there'll be an option where you'll be able to type something in. There'll be some drop-down areas. You can mix and match some of that geography through that. And then for address, sometimes when you're going through and you're looking for information, you don't really know, you might not know a lot about the area that you're looking at. So the best way to search might be putting in an address. So that's an option for you. And then lastly, we have that map tab. And through this feature, it allows you to see, based on what you've selected for your geographies, a map of the area that you have selected. And it allows you to turn on and off some different features for this reference map. I like to call it, in this view, it's more like a reference map view. In terms of your search, when you go in the upper left-hand corner, you'll have a search box that'll have your selections. And sometimes we refer to it as your shopping basket. I like to sometimes refer to it as your guide. So this is where, as you're going through and you're starting to add selections, they'll collect. And it serves as a guide as you're going through the tool to let you know what you're selecting. Sometimes it's very easy to just start clicking on things and options accumulate in this box. And so you'll see there's a little X next to some of the options that allows you to take it away. You'll also see there that there's a clear all selections and that you can start fresh for different searches. You can also search by topic. So on the left-hand side, you'll see options to search by topic. And there's various categories. And then when you get into the topics and you click on those, the plus sign, it breaks it down even further. So as you can see, if you were to look at people, you could then search by disability or language. We've got the option to search by a specific data set or a particular program. Are you looking for ACS? Are you looking for the economic census? Sometimes you need to search for data by year for a particular vintage. Maybe your program requires a certain vintage of data. And then you can also see that we break it down by housing or even the different product types. And then one of the features, of course, today's session is wild card or wild ride. So David's going to talk a minute about some of these features before we show them to you.
Yeah, so one of the things to keep in mind today is that sometimes when you're looking around in American Factfinder, it can be a wild ride trying to figure out what you're doing. So there is a way you can use this little asterisk. It's called a wild card in some circles. And So you can put that on there, and it will find all sorts of tables that, for example, have DP in them, or maybe the 5-year estimates, and you'll see as I go through that. And then Heidi and I also want to show you that with quotation marks, a lot like in Google, you can do a targeted search. So you can put the quotation marks in there and just look for what you have between those quotation marks, and it will find it for you. So Heidi, next one. The other thing I did want to mention is that there's a lot of value in the URL, and I will show you today how to bookmark and create your own personal URL. When you copy that URL and paste it into something, it looks like this, but you can actually change your table using the URL. So you can go in there, for example, if you didn't want to have a 2017 one-year data, as I have here marked in red, and you wanted 5-year data for that, whatever your geography is, you would simply just change that 1 to a 5, the 1 before the YR, change it to 5 and hit return or enter, and you would get a new table. The same with where I have SO101 in blue, that's the number of the table. If you know a table that you like and you want to substitute it and put it in there, quite often you can just hit return and it will create a new table for you. So no problems with that. So that's it. Heidi?
All right, so now we've been talking about some of the features in American Factfinder, and we'd be remiss if we didn't tell you that we are going to be moving away slowly from American Factfinder and moving towards a new tool called data.census.gov. And some of you perhaps have heard of this. Some of you maybe have already gone to go ahead and check it out. It is available on our website. When David gets into American Factfinder, he will point out where you can go ahead and access this tool. But we are moving away from Factfinder, and we will be adding new data to data.census.gov, effective with the next release of the American Community Survey data, which will come out. Typically, those data releases for ACS come out in September and December. So with that next release of data in September, it will be released through data.census.gov and not through American Factfinder. However, American Factfinder will still be with us, at least for the next year or so, as we are adding to this tool and making the tool more robust. So fear not, we will still have Factfinder available. And we do encourage you to, when you have time, check out this tool. We've provided an email here for the SEDSci.feedback, because we are asking users as they use this new tool to please continue to provide us feedback, because that is how the system is becoming more robust. We want to make sure that all the features that you like from American Factfinder are included in this tool.
Heidi, before you turn that over to me, can you see if there are any questions?
Yes, that's what we're going to do. So, Kurt, if you could please open the line to see if anybody would like to ask some questions on the phone, please.
Sure. We will now begin the question and answer session on the phone. If you'd like to ask a question, please do so by pressing star then 1. Make sure to unmute your phone line and record your name clearly. If you need to withdraw your question, press star then 2. Again, to ask a question, please press star then 1. It may take a few moments for the questions to come through. Please stand by.
Okay. So, Kurt, as we're waiting for a question to come in, if you would like to ask on the phone, I will mention that we will be providing the slides from today for you. We are, as Kurt said, recording this. So as soon as we can get that available, we will also be getting that posted as well. But initially, we'll at least be able to provide you with the slides from today.
We do have a question when you're ready.
Go ahead, Kurt.
Our first and only question currently in queue is Linda Walker. Your line is now open.
Oh, yes. I'm trying to get that email feedback address for the data.census.gov. It says you can email your feedback, but they flashed off the screen before I could write it down.
Okay, well, yes, we'll be giving you this deck, so you'll have that. We'll send it out to you.
Oh, okay.
And then also, when we go to the online portion, we'll go ahead and you'll see that again. So we'll get you that, Linda.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And give me one moment. We had two people just queue up. Let me get their names here.
Sure.
Oh.
Our next question is from Eric Johnson. Your line is now open.
Yes, my name is Eric Johnson, Cleveland, Ohio. In the queue, are you guys going to work on a process to kind of clear up some of the muddling that takes place? I know we were talking about how it goes in so many different directions, but one of the problems I have in searching for certain information, because I'm specifically looking for economic data, and sometimes it gets mushed and mashed between, whether it's location or whether it's, state, or it just seems to me that there's a lot of, or at least in the current form, or at least in the form I've been using previously, there's been a lot of clutter that you have to go through to get to what you really want. And I'm wondering if you guys are going to do something to break that down a little bit.
So, and David can chime in. So we're going to show you some of our tips and tricks to help you drill down in different ways to get to what you're looking for using American Factfinder. In terms of the new tool, data.census.gov, part of the reason they're going to this platform, Eric, is to get away from some of that. They are trying to provide a search experience that streamlines things a little bit. So instead of sometimes knowing and going into a tool that you're going to try and drill down for ACS or the economic census, we're hoping through this new tool we can streamline that process a little bit. And it is going to take some evolving. That's why we do want you all to test it and provide us that feedback. But that's kind of where we're headed. Kurt, we'll go ahead and take the next question, please.
Next question is from Loretta Barnes. Your line is now open. Hello, Ms.
Sorry, I had to get off of mute. Can you go back over you discontinuing the tool, and will you also provide the PowerPoints in our emails after this presentation?
Yes, we will provide the PowerPoint to everybody, and just in terms of the new tool, we are developing this new tool called data.census.gov, again, because we're looking to try and streamline the user experience looking for data. And so that is part of the reasons what we're trying to develop this new tool. Again, a fact finder will be hanging around at least for a year or so. We'll continue to provide updates as we do get information, but we are headed towards this new tool for upcoming data releases, future American Community Survey data releases, data that will be coming out later this year for the economic census, and then, of course, once we do the 2020 census and collect that data, this tool will also be that vehicle.
Thank you.
Kurt, any other questions?
Currently, no other questions in queue.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead and I will switch it over to David so that he can go ahead and start doing the online session. And then while David is presenting, I will try and have a peek at the chat box.
Okay, so hello everybody. I'm going to just go through the American Factfinder and just show you some tips and tricks as I've learned over the years working with this. So first of all, this is the Census Bureau's website, our main website. You just come right up here to explore data, go to data tools and apps, and scroll down right here and come to American Factfinder. and then come down here. You can certainly go to community facts and look things up in there. That is sort of a mixture of data from different surveys, and so sometimes I steer people away from that unless they're in a big hurry. I'm going to say come down to advanced search and just show me all. And there's certainly a very simplistic or simple way, I should say, or an easy way, or the cheater's way to do things is really when this opens, you can just come right here to this, and you can put over here whatever you're looking for. And so I'll just put in Auburn, New York as a place. There it is right there, Auburn, Cuyahoga County, New York. And then I can come over here and I can do a couple different things. I can look up a topic, or I can look up a table. So quite often, I know that people like the S0101 table. There it is right there, age and sex, and you can just hit go. And it's just going to show you all the tables going back through time for that city. Okay, so here it is right here. So we have 2017, 2016. That is just an easy way to get to a table, certainly if you already know the table. So here it is right here. I'm going to click out. Over here's my shopping basket on the left, where I'm essentially trying to add things or pull things out of as I need them or refine things. But right here, I'm going to just X out of this. Maybe I don't want the S010 table. Maybe I want to look just for a topic. But we do know it's Auburn City, New York. It's kept that up there. And I can certainly just come here and put in a word. Maybe I need to find internet usage. And I can put that word in there, and it will find all these tables that have the word internet in them. So that is just a very simple way to use this up here at the top. Let me just clear everything out of my shopping basket right there. I can also do something else here. Let me just come right back here. I'll put in Essex County, New Jersey. I'll put that in there. And let's just say I wanted something. I know that I like what we call our data profile tables. Those are very big tables that have a little bit of everything in them. But I'm not sure which data profile table I want to look at. So we have DP tables, we call them 02, 03, 04, 05. You could just say DP asterisk. That's your, oops, didn't quite work there. Sorry. Let me back up. Let me do that one more time. Let's make sure that works. DP asterisk, maybe it didn't like what I did here. You can just put that in, and it's going to find all those DP tables for me, okay? So that asterisk is sort of like a wild card. It just sort of helps you along, gets you in there a little bit faster. If that's the way you want to look at something, look for something, you can certainly do that. The other thing I like to point out, a little trick, is sometimes there's many tables here, 137, and you'll be going through and it cuts off. Over here at the upper right, there's a little thing that says per page. You can say, okay, I want the most there is, 75 per page. And it just makes it a little bit easier to look at. You can go through, you can sort of see what you need to see. If, for example, you wanted to put in a word to look in those DP tables, so let's say you know that you want information about health insurance. You can put it right here, health insurance, and come over here to the right and just hit go. And it finds those tables going back through time that have the information about health insurance in there. So that's just another way to do things if you want to and look for information. It's just a quick way to get in there. So I'm going to clear my searches right here. And I'm going to come over here, and I just want to show you when we were looking over here before, we were looking for a very specific place or very specific words. You have to be a little bit, it's going to look exactly for the word unless you put the wild card in there. But over here we have something called topics. Topics is slightly different. So if you're looking for things about people and maybe you want to look up poverty or population change or origins, it's actually going to find tables that are related to the topic, not necessarily that the word itself will be in the table. So that is another way to look at things. But I want you to realize that over here, it is sort of a relationship to the idea. And when you're looking over here in the center, it is actually more looking for the exact word. So something to think about as we go through this. I'm going to actually, something that I like to do lately, I'll say, I've changed the way I do things, but I like to get the year that I want. So I want 2017 right here, and I say, okay, now I'm going to go looking for 2017 data for a place, whatever place that may be. So then I come to geographies right here, and up until now we've sort of showed you how to find data about one place, but you can find data about a whole string of places if you needed to. So that's where this list mechanism comes in to play. So you can come here, and when I open this, I want to show you that anything that does not apply to 2017, somebody mentioned economic data before. So notice there's the economic places are not here because there was no data for 2017. So it's sort of out of your grasp for that year, okay? So I'm going to just take counties, and I will say counties within state, and so I know I'll take a state I don't know too much about, so that's Ohio, and I say all the counties within Ohio, add to your selections, and it throws it up here into my shopping basket, so it is there, that information. I'm going to come over here to the right. This is the close screen, and here are all the different types of tables that are available to me. So notice up here it is telling me there are 2,402 tables available. Okay, so once again, and this is for only the year 2017. So I can come back up here and I can use that wildcard feature again. So if I need DP tables, I'll hit DP asterisk, and it just pulls up the DP tables for me. And I do want to point out that this has 5-year data and 1-year data here. You should know that 5-year data is data that goes down to a level where there's very small population thresholds, and go down to an area that has, just a few hundred people in it. I won't say it will be the best margin of error, but you can get that. So I tend to steer people towards 5-year data. 1-year data is for areas that are only over 65,000 people. So let's just look at a table here, the DPO2. And notice we have every county for Ohio in this table. We come down here over on the left. If you wanted a previous year, you simply click. So I wanted 2015. It's going to change that table for me. And there it is, the 2015 data for all the counties in Ohio. I will come back to 2017 though. Okay, and so there it is right there. Once you get to a table, you drill down to something that you like. Sometimes I like to tell people, if that is really what you like, and that's the type of table you want, write that table number down somewhere so that you know what to look for in the future, okay? So when you finally get to a table, okay, a couple of things you can do here. You can bookmark it. If you click on that bookmark, it makes a URL there for you. You can right-click, and then you can copy and paste that and put that URL into a document. You can put it into an email, whatever you need to do. And when you come back and click on it next week or next month or next year, it will open this table for you, okay? You can also, if you can see the center right here, it says ACS 17_5-year. If for some reason you knew that you wanted 2015 data, you simply can take the 7 here, backspace, change that to a 5, and you will get the 2015 data. A couple other things you can do here. You can certainly come here and download it. If you download and say use, it will turn it into a CSV file for you that you can put into an Excel spreadsheet. You can come over here, and I'm going to show you how to modify a table. So Once you click that button, Modify Table, you can do a lot of different things with this. You can use the filter, and you can filter out things if you need to. So you could come here, and maybe you don't want to see those margins of error. So you click on what you do want to see, estimate, and the percent. You hit OK. It changes that table for you. Perhaps you didn't want the total number of maybe households. You can come over here. You can click on this. It will sort of collapse the table. Perhaps some of this extra stuff you don't want there. Uncheck it. And then when you go back to your table, so I'm going to click this little thing up here that says Hide Table Tools. Your table now looks like this. So I've actually cleaned up the table on the spot. Okay, and then once I do that, if I need to, I can now download the table. Okay, and when I download it like this, whatever I've cleaned that table up into is what will come into my Excel. Okay, so something just to keep in mind, I can't bookmark it. We don't like you, if you're going to share that or bookmark it, we really want you to just have the original table. So you can go back to the Modify Table, you can say Reset Table, or maybe you deleted something you didn't want to delete, so I'm just resetting the table, and it just brings me right back to square one. So that is something you can do with the Modify Table button, kind of useful for some people, okay? And you get back to Advanced Search. And so another thing I want to say is I like to sometimes use those URLs. It is a sort of fast way for me to get into American Factfinder. And then once I get in there, I hit that back to Advanced Search. I come back here and I start changing what I need to look at. So maybe I don't want to look at DP tables. I get rid of that. Notice all the tables come back. Maybe I didn't want all counties within Ohio, but maybe I do want the 2017 data. I could certainly come back to my geographies and start looking for something else, okay? So once again, you can go this list method. If I just open this and show you, you have all these selections here. I do want to point out we always have these radio buttons or little secret buttons here. If you click on that, it says all geographic types. You're going to see that when I open this, it has even more there than was there originally. So you can go through and you can look for all sorts of geographic data if you need to do that. So I just caught my breath, and let me go right over here to Name tab. I'm not going to go through all these tabs today, but I thought this Names tab is kind of useful. Sometimes you can find things in there that you couldn't find in the list. Sometimes you can parse things out a little bit differently. So certainly you can come over here, and the very traditional method we just looked at, you can just type in Auburn, city, comma, and then we're going to find it right here, Hugo County, New York, and you can hit go, and here it is, and you select the one you want. Usually it's the very first one, county subdivision, and it will throw it up there into the shopping basket. So just a quick way to do that as well if you wanted to. But there are some other things you can do with this. I just cleared that out. For example, if you need to parse something out a different way and it's not in that list, sometimes you can do it over here. And so I'm really just going to show you. Heidi and I fooled around with this the other day. So Heidi, if you need to speak up, speak up. But she needed something in Maryland, so I just went up here and said Maryland. And then it finds everything in our database geographically that has the word Maryland in there. But we needed Montgomery County. And I just put in the word Montgomery County, and it comes up here, and I have all sorts of information that I need. But what we really needed to do was get it down to what we call a sort of summary level. So I come down here, there's a button right here, summary level, and we needed places. And we weren't just looking for places, we were looking for something called a CDP, census designated place. And so you can come up here and you could just, if you needed to, put in CDP. I want to put it right in there in quotations, and I hit go. And it's going to find all the CDPs that are within that county for me. So one thing I need to do, notice it says 1 through 25 of 54. What I really want to do is come to the right, make that 75 per page. And here I have everything down here, and I'm going to say check all. And I say add. Okay, and then we've put that up there. I can hit close, and hopefully I've done this right. And we have this information right there. And we can go looking for whatever we need to look for. We can also, if we want to come back to geographies, what we just selected, if I can get that to open, we can actually just click on the map to see what it will give us. And I will tell you the mapping function, even though it can be very powerful, it does have its moments during the day when it doesn't want to work or it wants to move slowly for you. And these are all the census designated places that we have. Those are unincorporated places in Montgomery County, Maryland. And so you see that right there. And if you are a GIS person, by the way, over here on the right, second from the bottom, there's a little download button. You can download shapefiles for what we just selected in yellow as well. So that's something just to keep in mind. And I think, Heidi, I am going to turn it back to you unless you had anything you wanted me to show.
No, you went ahead and showed them that feature as part of that search. So thank you for clicking on that map tab so that they could see how that search broke down for the reference.
Okay, so I'm going to give the controls back to you.
Okay. And then one of the things that I wanted to do real quick was show you a feature that I discovered. I mean, I knew we had questions about the American Community Survey on our website, and I knew you could look to find the question, find information about the question, but I actually had stumbled across a really nifty little tool that we wanted to show you today. So I'm going to come up here to census.gov. I'm going to do surveys and programs, and I'm going to come on over here looking for the American Community Survey. And then right here, first I'll just mention, in terms of this page, this is a great resource. So if some of you do use the American Community Survey data quite a bit, this is a great resource for you because it's a one-stop shop to provide a lot of different information. Sometimes you need to know about the technical aspect. You might want to know about the methodology. So we have all that great information here. If you want to know some of the latest of what's going on, you can check that out. But for what I'm going to show you today is right here. Why do you ask each question? And what you'll see here is we actually start to break down the questions by subject and how they relate on the questionnaire. So we do have a fact sheet here for questions that are related to all persons, and then all the questions that are related to housing. You can type in a keyword. If there's a particular category that you're looking for, you can do that here. But you'll see as we scroll down, you'll see like age, and that is related to question 4. What I'm going to come down to is here, health insurance. So this is related to question number 16. So we're going to click on here. And what this does is it lets you know why do we ask the question. Who are some of the users? We talked about that in the beginning, that state, local, tribal, federal agencies can use the data from this survey for planning. Of course, privacy. Privacy is a big issue with us. Everything that we do and collect, we are sworn by confidentiality. We all take an oath ourselves, that is for life, to protect this data. You can look at the question as it appears on the form. So if you've ever been curious about a question and what it might look like, you can check that out. And then we have results from the question. This is what I'm going to get back to. This is one really neat feature that I like, so we're going to look at this in a minute, but we're just going to continue. You can see health insurance coverage data. How does it help community? So we provide some examples, provides assistance to children and families, provides health care for veterans. We also have on the right-hand side, you'll see if we had a visualization that we did for a particular data release, or we had a particular event coming up. If we have something to share, we include that as well. Again, going down with some of the groups that use the information. And then lastly, we have a information sheet as well. But what I want to come up here and tell you about, which I stumbled across, is some of the tables that are available here. So we've got for health, and I think it's a little bit slow loading because it was yesterday, but what you should see are 3 tables here of information. And then you'll see down here we can actually look at state. And it looks like it is wanting to be a little bit temperamental with me, so I'm going to reload, see if that changes things a little bit here. All right. So there were some of the missing tables that we didn't see. And now we're getting our drop-down list. We're going to come down to the state where I live, Oregon, and I'm going to say Get Data. And you'll see that now we've got it broken down with some of our popular health tables by state. And if you click on this hot link, it will take you to a table, but I want to take it down a step further. So you'll see that we also have the availability for county and city and town. So I'm going to go ahead and select county. And then I am going to choose from my county list Marion County. And I'm going to say Get Data. And it broke it down again, one step further for us. So these 3 popular tables on health, and then broken down by the county. So what we're going to do is go ahead and we're going to have a look here at this first one. So I'm going to click on the 9.9%. And it will bring me to American Factfinder. Well, I will get to view a table, just like David showed you. So up here it has, it's giving us data from that DPO3, those data profile tables, which, as David said, are some really great tables that provide you with a snapshot of a lot of really good information. And for this case, it's our selected economic characteristics. And you'll come down here. So you'll see things. No, we didn't select employment, but because, again, this is a data profile table, it will provide us with some other characteristics. So you can see we've got some employment information, some commuting, occupation, class of worker, income, families. But here is really what I was looking for in this table, this health insurance coverage. So here's where we get a really nice breakdown of that health information. And, of course, as you can see, as we scroll through the table, we got a lot of other good bits of information as well. So this is a pretty cool feature. One, if you've always wondered what it is in terms of the questions, what do they look like, why do we ask them, here's a great resource for you, and then the added benefit of potentially going ahead and finding a shortcut to data tables. All right, with that, we will go back to the PowerPoint slide real quick. We've got a few more slides that we'll go through, and then we will go ahead and have some time for some questions. So with that, I'd like to mention our Census Academy. Some of you may have found out about this webinar because you may be a subscriber to our Census Academy list, or you might just be a subscriber to some of our global census lists. Well, what we've got is our Census Academy website. This is a site that's going to provide some new and innovative ways to provide training. You can find out about other webinars that we are offering here. We also offer data gems, which are short tutorial clips. So if you think about when you've been on YouTube or Facebook and there's a video that says, let me show you how to bake a cake in 2 to 3 minutes, that's what these clips are. We provide you with either how-to or a data concept, and we try and do it in 2 to 3 minutes. And then we also will be offering some data courses as well. Next week, next Tuesday, is our big official launch of Census Academy, and we will be putting at least one of our courses up there, possibly a few others. So be looking for that. And those courses will be learn at your own pace, module-based courses. And then we'll continue this webinar series that we're conducting is currently running through June 28th, and then we will eventually have another webinar series, but you can always go to Census Academy to see what webinars are being offered. And we are everywhere, so feel free to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. So please look for us on social media and to keep up on what is going with our events and our training. This is the contact information for David and myself. We also provided our general box. So like I said in the beginning, there are DDSs like David and I all across the country. So you might be able to, you can contact David or I, or you can reach out and send a message to census.askdata to find out who your DDS is. Also, please feel free to use this phone number and this email box for any questions that you might have related to data.
Heidi, we have a couple of questions. I have one. Somebody said, can you please repeat where to sign up for the upcoming class?
Oh, sure. So actually, the courses that we're offering through the data courses, those are going to be module-based, learn at your own pace. So once we post them, you'll have access to them. There's no need to sign up for those courses. And then for the webinars, you will, we do suggest that you register for those because most of them do require a registration. But those other sessions that are being taught, David and I have one more ourselves, June 5th, I believe it is, and then of course we have our peers that are also doing courses. So those you sign up for, the data courses, you do not need to. Those will just be posted for your information and to go at your own pace.
Yeah, Heidi, there's another question here. Someone was asking about when we download tables that the headings are very long, and she's just wondering if there's any way about how to handle those. I don't have a way, except that I know there's always a code, I think like a kind of a crosswalk. Is that correct? You can get a code for the headings in the tables. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, I can't either, David.
Yeah, so it does seem, I'm pretty sure that they're giving, you get the headings for the tables in each column, but they're also giving you sort of a crosswalk of numbers or something of that sort. So but yes, so we hear your pain. We feel your pain.
All right, David, anything else through chat before we ask Kurt to go ahead and open up the line?
Yeah, let me just say one other thing. Somebody did ask a little bit about the difference between the 1-year and the 5-year data. Actually, the 3-year data as well. The 3-year data, we don't produce that anymore. We decided to go just with 1-year and 5-year. So 5-year data is for areas geographically that are less than 65,000 people, or, for example, if you had a mixture. So let's say that you took all the counties in New York State. Certainly many of them will be more than 65,000 people, but if any of them are less than 65,000 people, you need to just take the 5-year data. Okay, and the 5-year data means that we collected that data over 5 years, and then after the 5th year, we released it. It's an average. So I quite often steer people to the 5-year data. I think it's just a little bit safer to use. It's actually also a bigger sample, so you might get a better reading on what's going on. So, and that's it from my end.
Okay. Kurt, if you can go ahead and queue up the question, please.
Yes, again, if you'd like to ask a question on the phone, press star then 1, record your name, and again, that's star then 1.
And while we're waiting for any questions to come through the line, I'd like to, first of all, thank you for taking your time today. We know everybody's busy, so we appreciate you taking an hour of your time to spend with David and I. And we're always looking for feedback about how we can do better, if there's other things that you would like to learn about. So we ask if you wouldn't mind filling out a, I believe it's just a, I want to say 6 or so questions, not too many. It should only take just a couple minutes. And this is a link, and so we'd appreciate if you would take a few minutes to let David and I know how we did today, and please let us know what are some of the training offerings that you would like to see in the future.
It looks like our first question, the name was just recorded as Doddington. Your line is now open.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Heidi and David, for the presentation. 2 questions. When you showed how to, why we asked these questions and you were able to break down the different tables, once you kind of go in and you pulled up that table, David, do you still get the opportunity to kind of modify that table and to kind of delete things out and then kind of download that table, whether it be in a CSV or if you hit the map selection in there, could you still get the shape file, is the first question.
I think you can. Is that correct, Heidi? I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
Because it's directing you over into American Factfinder, and then from there you can do everything that I was doing at the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then thank you. And then my second question is, when you're in searching for data, when it says the geo database, which I'm really particular in, it seems to when you try and tap into that. If you're using an open source software, say like QGIS instead of ArcGIS, which has proprietary on the market, it seems to crash when you try and access those tables in the geo database. And I was wondering, is there a workaround for that, or is it just because the database is kind of set up to kind of work with ArcGIS kind of commands? If you could speak on that, thank you.
I don't know the answer to that question. Do you, Heidi?
No, I don't.
The one thing I want to say, okay, you are pulling in a geo database. I guess you want everything, nice and tidy when you pull it in.
Right.
Right. Well, because I'm just saying, like, say for instance, I don't want to kind of go back, and I want to just be able to have it connected to the database, so I can kind of just pick and choose what I want instead of having to kind of come in and kind of do the search or understand the question. So if I had the whole database, I can just kind of go in if someone on my team wants to look at something particular. I can pull this up, right? But once you pull it in, the tables actually kind of crash because there's so many different records. But I was thinking, since it's set up, it doesn't crash in ArcGIS, but it happens to crash in some free open software.
QGIS. Yeah.
So I was just curious, but
yeah, I'm not sure. The only thing the one thing I could tell you though is if you are pulling your data from, and this doesn't really answer your question, if you are pulling it from AFF, you can pull those shape files. Those are low memory shape files. They're called cartographic boundary files. They're clipped to the water and everything, and they are meant to join up with our data really easily. Much easier than some of the other data some of the geo data you might get elsewhere from the Census Bureau.
Well, then, one last question, and I'm sorry. So, by you saying that, if I pull in, say I go in the regular route, grab the shape files, that comes along with that metadata attached to that shape file that I can pull into any graphing geographical program, correct? It should, right?
You get metadata, yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I should add, and we can always, if there's more that you want to ask us, you can feel free to email David and I offline too if there's more as you're working on your project. But I wanted to add too, are you, just for the geo databases, are you downloading those, using those, the ones that the Census Bureau has put together that have
Yes,
the data, the ACS data and the Tigerline files?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, can I ask one more, if y'all mind? Or is there someone in the queue, Kurt?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to know about like block groups. So you know how there's like this theory that like the census is gives us a good proxy indicator for the neighborhood, but say I want to kind of get down to the block group and really kind of look at it a little bit more granular. Do y'all kind of like recommend that, or do you think that we should stay with kind of the evidence that most people that kind of publish papers are using this information stay at the census block level? I was just wondering what's your thought on that, because we have a little debate here on whether you should kind of go down to that lower level of geography. And then when you kind of pull stuff from the block group, someone was telling me that you can't get certain like detailed profiles for the block group at that level. If you could kind of speak to that, if that question came through clearly.
All right, I'll speak to it. Okay, the ACS data is a sample, and so you can get it down to a census tract and sometimes to a block group, but you won't be able to get that ACS data down to a block level.
Right.
And so the block data that you're going to get is only going to be from the 2010 census, and those are pretty much like hard numbers, you know, how many people are there, how many housing units, sex, age, and that sort of thing. So my personal recommendation is that people, when they're pulling ACS data, they shouldn't go lower than a tract.
Gotcha.
A tract has about 4,000 people in it, and that's what we generally need to get a good sample. But a lot of people do like to go down to a block group level. And if you were ever to look at your margins of error in the block group data, and you got a high margin of error there, and sometimes even you get no data. Okay, because the sample wasn't large enough. So personally, I recommend only down to the tract level, unless it's a really heavily populated area that has a high population in the block group.
Okay. And then can y'all just post your email address back up there on the screen, even though I know you're going to email them, if you don't mind, on that slide?
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes, it's up there.
Thank you.
And if you're ready, our final question currently in queue is from Jamie. Your line is open.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I was just curious about, it's just a simple question. You mentioned that for the 1 year you need a population of at least 65,000. Is that the samples that you did or the population?
That's the population. So we put out that 1 year data for areas that have a population of 65,000 or more.
Okay, and the ACS interviews that you did, I would assume there's a percentage where you would calculate the error rate?
David, would that be, I guess, related to margin? Well, I guess the margin of error.
Okay, you could get that margin of error, how much samples for the most part, or how many interviews were done? Does that sound right?
It's 1 in 10 addresses over 10 years is sample.
I'm sorry?
So for year, each year it's about 3.5 million addresses a year that get that ACS survey.
Okay.
Which averages about 290,000 a month that get that survey.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Currently, we have no other questions in queue.
Okay. So we will just, David and I will go back a minute in case anybody does have anything else. We will hang on the line a minute. If some of you are providing questions through chat, David and I can hang on a minute and look at those. And we'll just wait another minute here. But again, thank you so much for taking your time today to join us. Again, we'd really appreciate your feedback on what we can do to improve this session the next time that we do it, or if there's something else that you would like to learn, please let us know. And with that, Kurt, we'll just do one last call, and then we'll call it a day.
Okay, again, it's star then 1 if you have a question on the audio portion. Currently, we have no one in queue.
Okay. David, anything else that we want to address through that came up through chat?
Yeah, one person's asking, what do the table letters stand for? So DP means data profile. It's sort of a generalized, sort of like the target of tables. It has a little bit about everything. S is a subject table. It takes one topic, for example, internet usage, and really breaks it down by sex and race and all sorts of things. And B is a base table, which just has some very basic information. And then we have C tables. Is that correct? Collapsed tables. And that's sort of like a smaller table too. And we also have something very little bit hidden there. It's called a CP table. It's very much like a data profile table, except it is comparing 2 years. And so it will show you percentage of change from 1 year to the next. And you can see that too. But it's a big table, just like the data profile table. So DP, data profile, S, subject table, B, base table, C is collapsed, and CP means comparison profile.
Okay. All right. Well, Kurt, if nothing else came through, then thank you so much again for joining us today, and we'll conclude the session. And for those of you, again, we'll just hang on chat for a minute in case there's one last question that you would like to ask. And thank you so much.